It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
With Ease US makes studio quality voiceovers for your videos online in over 149 languages and dialects. Never been easier to create professional grade videos and voiceovers. Try it today at easeus.com. That's EASEUS.com. Ease US.
Hi, I'm Mitch, the co-founder of Cake, a sexual health and wellness company designed for today and designed for you. Yes, you. The entire product line can be found at hellocake.com, and it's also available in every Walmart near you.
Send money abroad in just a few steps with Remitly. Sign up with your email, enter an amount, choose how your loved ones receive the money, enter your recipient's information, select a payment method, hit send, and relax. Download the Remitly app today.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated. Each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Looking for tickets to the hottest shows, games, and events? Ticket Liquidator is your one-stop shop for great prices, no hassles, and guaranteed tickets. Whether it's sports, theater, or concert, for the best seats at the biggest events, start with Ticket Liquidator today at ticketliquidator.com. Ticket Liquidator. The U-Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. That's ulike.com. U-Like.
Oh, here we go. I'm not Pete Sousa, and you know that. I'm Scotty Swingler. Let me acknowledge the other obvious thing. For some reason, my graphics aren't working. There they are. Hello. Let me acknowledge the other obvious thing. I'm aware that this microphone might pop every now and again because of a cable I have to run to this side of the room to make it work. I'm not going to talk very long. In just a minute, we're going to get to Pete Sousa with College Football Insider, longtime CBS writer Dennis Dodd on the state of college football. So Pete's interview with Dennis Dodd coming up here in just a second. I wasn't planning on talking this morning, but I've been following some news here over the last couple hours that may be of interest to our Big 12 and Waco family. And before I get to that news, let me just say, as a Big 12 fan, something Pete and I haven't acknowledged on this program yet is that Jacob Rodriguez got host hosed. I know my friend Shahan Jayaraja just got a Heisman vote. If Scotty Swingler had a Heisman vote, hi Heisman voters, I'll take one anytime. I would have voted for Jacob Rodriguez, Texas Tech linebacker. I would have. There's not one outstanding singular Heisman candidate this season. There's not one. It's kind of a weaker year, I think, for the award, and it's the perfect year to put the best defensive player in the country. He just won the award for best linebacker in the country, best defensive player in the country. Perfect year for him to win it. For the number 4 team in the country coming out of the Big 12 that wasn't ranked last year and led by that defensive front 7. He is, there's a lot of important players on the defense, but he's the engine that makes it goes, and he's a turnover forcing machine. I mean, I would have voted for Jacob Rodriguez. He got hosed. Maybe Pete and I can talk more about that tomorrow. Okay, here's the Baylor news I've been following. And if you're a Baylor fan, we've talked a lot about the AD hire, Doug McNamee. If you want to hear more on that, I did an hour of Please Bear With Me yesterday just talking about the bull case for Doug McNamee at Baylor, why I think he's going to be great. You can check that out on Please Bear With Me. Matt Mosley and I talked about this yesterday on his show. You can go look for the Matt Mosley show on YouTube. So we're not going to talk Baylor AD right now. Baylor needs to hire another position, though. And you may not have thought about it amidst everything else going on. But with Dave Aranda being retained and Matt Powledge, it was announced a couple days ago, moving on from Baylor. He's going to serve as the DC for Neil Brown at North Texas. By the way, Jake Spavital is interviewing for jobs right now as well. If you didn't know that, spoiler alert. His name is one of the top names for the open TCU offensive coordinator position with Kendall Briles' departure. There's other places that are interested in Jake Spavital as a head coach and an OC. Remains to be seen if he will leave, but he is interviewing. So Baylor could be looking for an offensive coordinator soon, in which case I would implore them to call Sean Bell. But here's who they're calling right now about the defensive coordinator role. Dave Aranda has not done well calling plays for the defense as head coach. He has not confirmed that he will give up play calling duties this fall, but I think there's going to be a lot of pressure coming from Doug McNamee for him to give up play calling so that he can focus strictly on being a head football coach. And so Baylor needs a defensive coordinator and potentially one who can call plays. And I mentioned Sean Bell a second ago as a potential OC one day because I love him and he's a Baylor guy and I think he'll be a great OC. But I love the idea, and I think most schools do, of bringing Baylor people back to Baylor to coach at Baylor. I think it's really special when you can coach for your alma mater. I mean, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, it was every Baylor fan wanted Mike Singletary to be a head football coach at Baylor. I think we dodged a bullet there, by the way, because he hasn't been a good head football coach at any level. As much respect as I have for him as a player and an ambassador for Baylor and a man, he hasn't been a good football coach anywhere. So not as a head football coach. So, but I like the idea, and I think most fans like the idea of a former player coming back to be a coach. Bear the truth. I see you talking. If you haven't seen this news yet, maybe you'll be excited about this. A Baylor player that I vividly remember watching play in late elementary and early middle school is the leading candidate right now to be the next DC at Baylor. And I'm excited about this. It is Maurice Linguist. The standout safety for Baylor, played at Baylor from 2003 to 2006, by the way, overlapping with Doug McNamee's later years as a student. I believe Doug graduated in 2003, so maybe just barely missing Doug McNamee by a year there, or maybe Doug was in graduate school when Maurice was playing. He is currently the co-defensive coordinator and defensive backs coach at Alabama for Kalen DeBoer. And by all accounts, doing an outstanding job. He did serve prior to that as the head coach at Buffalo, where he wasn't great, at least not in terms of record, and that's okay. It was his first head coaching gig. He's been a defensive backs coach pretty much since graduating from Baylor, and he was a GA for a year at Baylor under Art Briles before moving on to his coaching career. He spent a year coaching defensive backs for the Dallas Cowboys. So this is a really, really experienced candidate. It would be his first time being a full-time DC. He is co-DC right now at Alabama. But I think as a Baylor fan, I would say if you can get a co-defensive coordinator from Alabama to come be the defensive coordinator at Baylor, that's impressive enough on its surface, like from a resume perspective, that I'm probably going to take it. And especially when it's a former Baylor player, I think it's doubly good because I even think that's a possible head coaching candidate when Dave Aranda leaves, if he does so well here next season. Maybe not. Maybe that's a reach, but I like the idea of bringing a Baylor guy back to Waco. Full disclosure, I have reached out to Maurice to see if he will talk with me about this. He's not responded. I don't really expect him to, but I went ahead and took a swing. But I think we could be hearing by the end of the week that Maurice Linguist is the new defensive coordinator for Baylor. And I think that would be an outstanding hire. And listen, I know there's a lot of people that are going to be angry about this coaching staff for the next 8 months. And even beyond that, because Dave Aranda is still at the helm. It's not going to change. So being a Baylor fan, I want Baylor to be successful. And I love bringing former players that I rooted for back to Waco. So Maurice Linguist, potentially, not saying it is happening, not saying it will happen. I'm saying it's highly likely at this point, based on what I know and what people have told me for a couple days, that he is the leading candidate for that role right now. And could be the guy. Now, I got on this show 3 weeks ago, and said, Baylor's going to hone in on Eric Morris and make him the head coach. And then an hour later, Linda Livingstone releases a letter that we're keeping Dave Aranda. So what do I know, right? I'm just reporting what I've heard, reporting what I see. I believe Maurice Linguist is the leading candidate right now to come to Baylor as the DC. I think that's a great thing. And I hope it works. I hope they find a way to get him. By the way, one of the best things about his candidacy, not only that he's a Baylor letter winner, but also what you lost in Matt Pallage. Matt Pallage was not great at calling plays the 1 year he did it at Baylor. I think a lot of fans have wondered what his usefulness is as a DC, especially once Aranda took over play calling duties. So, but let me tell you this about Matt Pallage. Baylor has about 3 secret weapons, not so secret, right? But 3 weapons on that staff that can just recruit any kid in Texas. Keenan Hall, Dallas Baker, and Matt Pallage. Like, Matt Pallage is considered to be an elite recruiter. And that's the part of losing him that might hurt, is the recruiting side of it. Do you know what Maurice Linguist is known for being best at, as good of a coach as he is? Recruiting. He's also an outstanding recruiter. He's from Mesquite, Texas, played at Baylor. I'm sure wants to be back closer to home. And so this makes a lot of sense. And you probably get an upgrade. And I'm not trying to be mean to Matt Pallage, but you might even be getting an upgrade here for on-field coaching. You might be getting an upgrade in play calling. And you are probably at minimum replacing Pallage's ability to recruit. He's a great recruiter. I don't know that Linguist can out-recruit Pallage, but you're at least like for like there on the recruiting side, getting a really, really, really good replacement. So I did want to report that before we dive into the rest of today's content. If you're a Baylor fan, keep your eye on this one. Think it's going to happen. Okay. I'm really not going to talk long today. We're going to take a break, come back. I'll tell you about Underdog, talk real briefly about this NFL weekend, and then we'll get into Pete Sousa's conversation with Dennis Dodd. Stay with us. It's the Pete Sousa.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com.
What if you could clean clean? With bio-based formulas and deep cleaning enzymes. No dyes, phthalates, or mystery ingredients. Just powerful pods for your dishes and laundry. Now you can, with drops made clean, made to clean.
Welcome to Kit Bag, the ultimate destination for football fans. Whether you're cheering for Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, or any other top club, for true football passion, think Kit Bag. Visit kitbag.com today. That's KITBAG.com. Kit Bag.
It's the Restore Clarity Focus Patch, my little secret weapon for staying sharp, focused, and on task. Each box comes with simple instructions inside, so you always know exactly how to apply it. Each patch lasts for 3 days. I love that I can wear it all day.
Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite. At Tusain's, we understand that maintaining a healthy lifestyle can be challenging, especially in today's fast-paced world. That's why our mission is to make fitness accessible to everyone, anywhere. Visit Tusains.com today and start your journey to better health. That's TOUSAINS.com.
A house is a property, but we live in homes. Home sweet home. Homes where the heart is. We aim to deliver the best home buying and selling experience so you can spend less time real estating and more time living.
Unlock a world of convenience with Mullybox, your one-stop solution for personalized subscription boxes delivered right to your door. Each box is tailored to your tastes. Mullybox.com. That's MULLYBOX.com.
Better sleep, inspired by nature. Your back, hips, and shoulders will fall into perfect alignment in any position, meaning that you get deeper, more comfortable rest. Visit ecoterrabeds.com.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Welcome to Market XLS, your all-in-one Excel solution for investors. Designed as an enterprise-grade platform, Market XLS caters to investment managers, secure and efficient investment management and research. Book your free demo.
Everybody at Equilife really has a passion and a real interest in helping people feel well. How much further can we go to get you feeling even better? It is a complete partnership between the two of us.
Football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. Download the app today and sign up with promo code Sousa to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code Sousa. That's SOUSA. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks. Win money.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play-and-get-terms_DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369.
I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to be really interesting to watch down the stretch here. You know, before the season, I didn't see many wins on the back half of the schedule for the Cowboys, and their next few games coming up here. Oh, I moved. I just had it pulled up. Here we go. Their next few games coming up here. Vikings this Sunday aren't as good as I thought they'd be, right? They took a big step back this year. Chargers, not as good as I thought they'd be. They did just beat the Eagles in that crazy game, but we'll pin that one on Jalen Hurts. Not as good as I thought they'd be. Commanders, way worse than I thought they'd be, right? I thought they'd kind of continue their progression from an excellent season last year. They've absolutely cratered this year. And Giants. So the Cowboys have a real shot to go 4-0 in the next 4 weeks, and the Eagles are on a 3-game skid. Cowboys down 2 games in the NFC East. Do I think they can catch the Eagles to make the playoff? No. The Eagles also have a relatively easy schedule for the rest of the way. But if the Eagles keep imploding, Cowboys can get in there. And I didn't think that was possible at the beginning of the season. I didn't even think that was possible about 4 weeks ago. But they need to win out. 4-0 starts this Sunday against the Vikings. If you're a Cowboys fan, you need to root for it. Speaking of which, we just ran that ad for Underdog. Seriously, would love it for you to play along. Here are my picks for the football weekend. I told you I would do this today. Touchdowns. It's all about touchdowns. Let's get Derrick Henry, Javonte Williams, and George Pickens with touchdowns this week. Pickens will bounce back. I think he's heard all the noise. Schottenheimer and Jerry throwing their full support behind him. I think he has a big game bouncing back against Minnesota. I think Javonte Williams scores as well. And then Derrick Henry against the Bengals. That's a huge game for both teams there, Baltimore at Cincinnati. Baltimore really needing to figure this thing out, or they could be in danger of missing the postseason. And King Henry going to get into the end zone. Those were my Underdog picks. If you want to pick along with me, you can use that promo code Sousa. Get your $53 bonus cash with your first $5 deposit to play more Underdog. Hey, it's time. Let's throw it to Pete Sousa with former CBS Sports writer Dennis Dodd, who covered the sport for years. If you've followed college football at all in the last 3 decades, you've read a lot of Dennis's work. I know I have. And this is a compelling conversation. Dennis is excellent. And we hope you enjoy. When we wrap with Dennis Dodd, I'm probably just going to run this outro and let you guys get on with your day. We will be back with a full edition live show, Pete Sousa Show, tomorrow. Pete calling the Baylor men's basketball game here in about 40 minutes. Make sure to check that out on ESPN Plus if you want to hear from Pete today. My name is Scotty Swingler. Thanks so much for joining us. Here's that conversation, Pete Sousa with legendary college football writer Dennis Dodd.
All the sport of college football. You are no stranger to the man I'm about to chat with right now. Many, many years, decades as a CBS college football writer. Dennis Dodd is joining us this morning to talk what else? College football. And it is, I feel like I'm living in this hyperbolic chamber right now, right? With so much going on, Dennis, the fallout from the college football playoff continues really this week. And I was saying earlier on my show yesterday, I felt like, you know, with college basketball in the NCAA tournament, when there's a lot of drama and maybe they get it wrong, you know, on Sunday night, everybody's freaking out. But by Tuesday night, we're already on to the Dayton game. So it kind of turns over. This one, it feels like we're ruminating in it a little bit longer than usual. I want to get your instantaneous reaction or reaction overall to the Notre Dame side of this. You know, where do they come down as far as you're concerned and legitimacy exists in their?
Well, I want to say this goes
post-election.
I want to say this goes back 12 years ago when ESPN decided to do this stupid weekly ranking show, but I think we all agree on that. This particular issue started this season when the selection committee on November 2nd or whenever it was decided to put Notre Dame 8 spots ahead of Miami when Miami had won the game head-to-head, and they both had 6-2 records. Like, that stood out from the beginning. And then the fact that they didn't have the wherewithal to realize what they'd done, and they would have to quote-unquote fix it if something like this came about. And then you add in the fact that on Pick'em Day on Sunday, BYU drops for losing to Texas Tech, which they should. But almost unbelievably, Alabama does not, with one of the worst showings they've had this year. So I don't think I know Notre Dame has an issue. I have a bigger issue with Alabama being in, but I'm explaining to you right now why Notre Dame is pissed, because for 5-6 weeks, the committee told them, oh yeah, you're ahead of Miami. And then on that Sunday, they go in the room and they decide that they're not. That's the problem. And by the way, Pete, I texted Gary Patterson the other day. If anybody has a dog in this show, it's Gary Patterson. You remember 12 years ago in the first iteration of this, TCU beat Iowa State by 52 and dropped from number 3, I think, to 5 or 6 or something like that, if you remember that. So Notre Dame doesn't have anything on Gary Patterson and TCU.
What did Gary say when you texted him?
Oh, he just laughed. He just hit, I don't want to say he's over it, because that stands out to me as one of the biggest injustices ever in college football, but he's over it now. He just laughed.
Do you think that the committee felt like they had to correct and maybe overcorrect it in a sense where, because that was screwed up, that they had Notre Dame in all those weeks and then Notre Dame doesn't get in. My bias as somebody who's from the Northeast, and I was talking, I always felt like Notre Dame was just shoved into my living room my whole life, right? But I respect Notre Dame. It's an amazing program. What they've done for college football is special. There's no denying that. But I've always thought this program has been kind of on third base, born on third base, thought they had a triple type deal. And so I don't know why they're so shocked when, the head-to-head matters. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, that, in my opinion, should be the criteria that, getting in. If they're neck and neck with Miami, you've got to look at that head-to-head. And I guess that would be the committee's, argument back, right? Like, well, we finally had them ranked next to each other. We had to look at that. What do you say to that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's high, if not number one in their protocol to consider head-to-head in considering these teams. But again, this came about only because Duke beat Virginia, and the fact that two Group of Five teams, James Madison and Tulane, had to get in. They had to get in. This is what the commissioners set this thing to be: the top 5 ranked conferences get in. So a lot of this is on them. And so that just created this merry-go-round between Notre Dame, Miami, and who's the third one we're talking about?
BYU or
no, Notre Dame, Miami, and Alabama. I'm sorry, Alabama. They decided, again, I thought it was a wrong decision, that Alabama should get in, rewarding Alabama as the first 3-loss team in the history of college football to play for a national championship, have been beaten by 3 touchdowns in the championship game, thus mitigating their win at Georgia, I would say, with a running game that's in the hundreds and a 2-2 record in their last 4. So you tell me who deserves to be in. But they had to make a decision, and they made a decision with Miami. And again, I have no problem with that. I can't tell you who should be in or out. The head-to-head matters. My problem is how they went about it for the last 5 weeks. They didn't realize what they had done, quote, and tried to fix it on Sunday.
I do give them credit, because the easy thing would have, well, I guess there's nothing easy really, because somebody's always getting left out. But Notre Dame is such a power. If you let them in, you're hearing a lot of noise from that fan base right now. And that's one of the reasons we love college football. When you look at a school like BYU, and I'm curious as to think why they didn't get in, what you think. I mean, when you put them up against Notre Dame and Miami, their strength of schedule was better. Their strength of record was better. Their record was the same as the best of those 3. Why does BYU not get in? Like, is this a legacy thing or just a lack of respect for the Big 12? What are your thoughts when you consider those metrics?
I think the 2 things you said, it's hard to say, a brand value, because Alabama got in and Notre Dame didn't. So if you start using brand value and then apply it to BYU, I guess, but they have won a national championship. At their best, they are a national program, but they were unfairly treated and dropping like they did after losing to Texas Tech. Now, I think the biggest thing that affected them, and I'm not rationalizing it at all, because I think BYU had a gripe. I think Texas had a gripe. If we're going to put 3-loss teams in, they had a better resume than Alabama, frankly. But the fact that they got boat raced twice by Texas Tech, but that didn't apply to Alabama, who's been playing bad for a while. BYU's been playing really good. They had 2 bad days. Now, if you take the rest of their schedule, maybe not compared to Notre Dame, but maybe. Notre Dame beat 1 ranked team after losing those first 2 games, and that was to USC, who was a very average USC at the end of the year. So, I think a little bit of that was brand value, and they didn't think this thing through, Pete. I mean, we're having all these discussions about why they can't rationalize any of it.
Well, do you think that they enjoy this? Like, and I'm not trying to be a jerk, like that they enjoy some of this, because the human element is always going to generate situations like this at some point. I mean, you're less likely to get it totally clean than you are to have some bumps in the road. Do you think that, like, subconsciously, like, this is good for the sport? Or do you think, because I've heard some people say that it's starting to move fans away because it's so transactional, and the politicking yesterday and into this morning and Monday is kind of rough.
Yeah. I think the question is, I think the question you're asking is this a credible playoff? And I posted that on a poll on Twitter, on X, on Monday. And at last check, I think 54% said it was, and 47%, almost half the people who responded, it was about 1,000 at that point.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a credible playoff. So when that happens, you've got a problem. 2 years ago, they left out Florida State, which I still can't figure that out. And then it came out, my reporting and others, that people on the selection committee thought Florida State couldn't win with a backup quarterback. Well, after Jordan Travis had gone out, they in fact had won a game with their backup quarterback. They were down to their third string quarterback, but their second stringer was coming back. And if we're going to apply that logic, well, why did Alabama make it when they had no starting running backs in the game? Were they supposed to play in the bowl game in the postseason? I never heard it. So basically they're doing whatever they think they can do, whatever they want. Now, do they enjoy the chaos? I can't answer for them. If the question is, do they enjoy being on the committee? Yeah, I think they do. I mean, if you're going to take, especially the administrators, the ADs are taking, think about this, Pete. If you took parts of 4 days out of your job to travel to pick a top 25 in person across the country, that's a commitment. I submit that it's an overwrought system. This is something they could do by Zoom. If you're going to do this, you're going to make a show out of it. If you're going to just take questions at the end of it, the chair, why not do it by Zoom? And then, athletic director, especially like Hunter Yurchek, is hiring a new coach, and he's taking 4 days out of his week to go down to Dallas and pick a top 25. I've got a problem with that.
Yeah, and I think maybe some of his constituents or some of the folks on that hired him should maybe feel that. By the way, if you want to continue to follow Dennis, at DennisDoddCBS.com or at DennisDoddCBS, you can get all the polls and all the information. You mentioned that poll. I love that. I do want to kind of drill down a little bit on you mentioned the Florida State thing. I am lucky enough to call football games where I'll work with people who know more than me and have access to more than me. I heard recently that Florida State, the administration and some of the football alums were not happy that Florida State played in that Orange Bowl, right after they got denied the opportunity in that instance you were talking about. What happened with Notre Dame? Is that like an administration thing that kind of stuff rolls downhill and then the players vote on it? Like, how does that happen? Notre Dame turns down a major bowl.
I think it's a combination of several things. I think it's a combination of the AD, Pete Bavacqua, lobbing a middle finger at ESPN because they control the bowl postseason and saying, whatever brand value you were going to get out of us, we're out of it. This is what you get for what you did. And I'm not blaming ESPN. I think he's making a statement to ESPN for better or worse. I think it's the transfer portal. They want to get things together. What do you really gain these days when the portal is looming from 15 extra practices? You got to keep your team together. I think they heard from the captains. I think they heard from the team. I don't know that for sure, but I think there was some buy-in from the players. I don't think they were dictated to by the president or the AD that you're not going to play in a bowl game. Okay. I think they were really, really disappointed. And you saw some others for different reasons, Iowa State, Baylor, Kansas State, but none like this. But I think at the bottom of it all, I think it was Pete Bavacqua, telling ESPN, well, screw you, basically.
Yeah, and it's funny, right? The only interview that I saw that he did was with Dan Patrick.
Yeah, I saw that.
NBC, right? Like not nothing for ESPN. I thought that was fitting as well. A couple more things on this, and then I want to ask you about some news that's popping up here, some financial news as it relates to college football. If the system is broken, how would you fix it?
Oh gosh, I have come to fall in love with the Super League concept. Now, and that is, people don't know, it was floated, late 23, I think. It would be 8 divisions of 10 teams, so 80 teams instead of 136. The top 2 teams in each division to create a 16-team field, but that 8th division would be promotion relegation. In other words, teams at the bottom of those 70 would then be shifted the next year into the 8th division. And if you won that division, then you'd go back into the top tier. I like that a lot because the whole thing is decided on the field. If you've got the top two teams in each 10-team division, then you figure out a tiebreaker, or the top two decide itself, and you go on from there. The problem is you're talking about breaking up the SEC. You're talking about breaking up the Big Ten into regional divisions, most probably. You're talking about Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti giving up power, and they dismissed it out of hand when the idea was floated. In fact, the Super League concept was dropped as an official movement in January of this year. But I think that's where this thing is headed. Either that or some sort of breakaway with the SEC and Big Ten, and then they decide what other schools come with them to form this new division. The problem is, as you know, the media rights deals are long-term. Most of them expire in 2030 or 2031. I think the Big 12 is up in 2031 with Fox and ESPN. The ACC now goes to 2036. So this is not something that's going to happen in the next 2 years, but I think that's where we're headed. I think that's more equitable. And the biggest point to be made out of all that, the people that created this Super League told Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, your teams will be making more money than they do now in the Big Ten in a couple of years. Those schools are going to be making $100 million per year in media rights alone. So that is the biggest attractive part of this.
Man, okay. And let's move forward with the money matters. Yesterday I saw in the Salt Lake City Tribune, I know you've talked about it, this deal that the University of Utah is very close to with a private equity firm that would pump massive amounts of money into Utah's athletic department. Like, what do you know about that? And can you sort of quantify it for like how that would relate to football and where this sets up? Utah, by the way, right down the street from BYU, which is a high-powered financial attack, really, from all the members of the church all over the world. So this, I always see Utah they go back and forth. It's definitely a play by Utah so they can have a ton of money to make a ton of moves.
Yeah, it's huge news because Utah becomes the first entity to sign a private equity deal with the name of the company. It's so new, I don't even know how to pronounce it yet. It's Atro Sports Capital.
Yeah, Atro Capital.
Atro Capital.
Out of New York.
And significantly, it is made up of a bunch of guys who used to work for Redbird Sports Capital, which is one of the biggest private equity firms in the world. They own AC Milan in Europe. That's a soccer team. It's one of the nation's best, or one of the world's best. And so now they've taken a shine to Utah and infused $500 million for an equity stake, and they're going to establish a separate entity within Utah Athletics to drive sponsorship, ticket sales, but obviously more money to spend on the programs, on the players. Now you ask, well, what does this mean to Utah football? Because going forward in the House settlement, all this money is regulated. It's pretty much capped. It's $20.5 million plus every deal over $600 has to be vetted before it's passed. It has to be real NIL. It can't be pay for play. So what does this mean? I think what it does long term is that it ensures the long-term viability and success of Utah athletics if and when what we just talked about happens.
Hey, come with us.
Yeah,
right?
Come with us. When the Noah's Ark thing happens, Utah just said, we're in.
Yeah.
Just like Kansas is trying to do with its new stadium. So I think that's the biggest takeaway from that. The equity thing, the downside is these equity companies are putting money into their investments because they want money back on the back end. And typically that's about 10, 12, 20%. I don't know what this one is. So you're giving away some of your equity in the long term. Short term, you get this infusion of money.
So do you think this is a trend that we could see? Let's say, will Iowa State do this if they can? Will UCF do this? Like, will we see this all over the country?
Yeah, 2 years ago, the Big 12 took a hard look at this international sports equity firm that was going to invest, what was it, $1 billion for a 20% stake in the entire conference. And it really caught the athletic directors, I think, were mostly in favor of it. the presidents either weren't, because by nature, presidents are conservative financially, especially to outside investment. And so that's why it didn't get passed. In fact, one AD told me that he had to explain what private equity was to his president, like what this deal meant. That's a bad sign. That was within the Big 12. So that didn't go. The Big 10 has looked into that Cal pension fund investment, but Ohio State and USC scuttled that pretty quickly when it became known that there were going to be tiered payoffs. And USC considers it at least as big as Ohio State in terms of brand value. So that's not only on hold, that's been scuttled for now. So the Utah thing is huge in the sports business world.
Dennis Dodd, I got one more question for you, because we're in this, and you've been in it for a very long time, because you report the news like we just talked about, but it's because we love football. Who's the best team in the country? Who do you see winning the national title when the dust settles in the middle of January?
That's a great point, or that's a great question. I was all over Ohio State until Saturday. What Indiana did at Oregon earlier in the season, and then in that Big Ten championship game, showed me something different. Now the question is, can Indiana, with what they've done the last 2 years, 23-2, and now the number one team in the country, let's not forget, can they sustain that over 3 games? I think they're going to be in the championship game. I think it's either going to be Georgia or I don't even remember. Yeah, Ohio State's on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah.
I'll go with those 3. I'll be a weakling and just pick those 3: Indiana, Ohio State, or Georgia.
Hey, I got one more for you. I lied. Somebody who's been at this for a very long time. Is this? I mean, man, we are not short on stories. I mean, last week it's the Lane Kiffin, it's the coaches early, it's the calendar. Now we're on to this. Everybody's losing their minds. It's all fun, but is this the most vicious news cycle this day and age than you've ever seen? I mean, really, what is around the next corner? I mean, truly, there's never a shortage of stories.
Yeah, I think almost most of this news, if you want it to be, is off the field. I think the average fan just wants to see games, but I think the next thing we're going to see inevitably is collective bargaining. You can't get past this pay thing with the players without negotiating directly with them. I think that streamlines things. The SCORE Act in Congress looks like it's dead for now. And there's nothing wrong with that. You have to understand, I think what these 4 years have shown us, Pete, since NIL has started, that on Saturdays, nobody cares if Jeremiah Smith is making more than his former teammate Jackson Smith and Jigba in the NFL.
Yeah.
And that's what I heard. He's making more than him in college right now. They don't care what they make. They just want them. They're rooting for laundry. They want dear old State U to win. And so if they collectively bargain for, let's say, a salary cap or working conditions or something like that, that hurts no one. And actually gives some certainty, cost certainty to what we're going on. So I think that's the next big one. It's not very sexy, but I think that's the next big one.
I appreciate the Seinfeld reference. Rooting for laundry. And you talk to more coaches than I do, but when I'm on the road calling games, they will say collective bargaining is a must for this whole situation. I mean, that is one thing I think everybody's in agreement on. And I hope that comes to fruition, because I think it will settle things down a little bit. Dennis, thank you so much. I appreciate it, man. It's so cool to pick your brain and to get some of this knowledge from you.
Pete, you have a great show. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. Take care, Dennis.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference, because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning. So we love Extraco.
Show. Sports.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is Stark.
Show. Sports.
Our professionals are not only experts in managing urgent concerns, but also in providing top-notch preventative health care. We're proud to connect pet owners to a vast network of licensed veterinary professionals, ready to address any immediate concerns. Book your first appointment today.
Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. NALGENE.com. We are Rogue Media Sports.